Hello and welcome to I Watched It With My Wife.
Documentary edition.
All right,
Woo.
woo, yeah, this is episode 3 of Q, Into the Storm, the docuseries about QAnon on HBO Max. In this episode, they cover some Q candidates running for governor and attorney general in Rhode Island in 2018. Including featuring the news station I work at. Also, they cover a violent shooting, the violent at the mosque in New Zealand, and the manifesto that was uploaded onto 8chan, the site where Q normally posts, and if there's some connection there, and also the outcome of the 2018 Senate midterm elections in that year, and how that ties in, and just predictions Q made, and some changes that happened within Q after the Q site got hacked. Before we begin, we'd like to post a correction to something we said in our last episode here of I Watched It With My Wife in Q Into the Storm episode 2. We said Ron Watkins was Jim Watkins' adopted son. That is actually not true. He's his biological son. We misunderstood that part from the documentary. And also, his mother is South Korean. He lived in China, the Philippines, and now currently lives in Japan. So we want to cover all of that places. He is I believe, yeah, as I said, his mother is South Korean, and he moved around with his father a lot before his parents divorced. So that is an update on Ron Watkins. Thank you, and now let's get back into the show. So Sarah, tell us what you thought of episode 3 of Q Into the Storm.
Okay, this episode was a little bit less sleepy than the last episode, than the second episode, but I think it might be because of your reactions. Because I'm not gonna lie, well, also, for those of you who don't know, I'm originally from Rhode Island, and when I saw Providence, Rhode Island on this documentary, I got so excited. And when we saw the politicians and the people on that they were talking about from Providence, Jeremy got excited and he was like, "Oh, look, it's the pot people." Please explain.
Yes. In 2018, Rhode Island's is when Rhode Island holds their during the midterm elections. They have their elections for governor and attorney general and stuff like that. And two candidates that apparently are big into Q were part of the state's Compassion Party. One was running for governor, the other was running for attorney general. These two people are certifiably insane. Not for their stance on marijuana. I'm not going to get into that. Well, actually, partially for the stance on marijuana, but not because they support legalizing it, but because of their stance on changing of how they go about changing the perception of marijuana.
Please tell.
Okay. The word marijuana was used by people trying to create a stigma around the plant in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was successful. So they want people to focus on it by cannabis. That part I understand, but these people have linked it to racial slurs, and literally the guy who ran for AG called my news station because I took the call and said that we should never use marijuana because it is on par with the N-word. Now, I understand wanting to change the focus to cannabis because of the stigma around marijuana, but no, marijuana is not on par with the N-word. No.
No, one is blatantly racist and the other one is a weekend hobby.
Weekend?
Weeknight, whatever. One is race, one is like straight up like a racial slur, and the other one is good for the soul.
Yeah, but now, further point of that, they focused on that, and they were, people, Q supporters that were actually running for office, and then they used part of a news story from the station I work at with a former coworker of mine who's moved on to another station now, and when he was covering them, and their big thing was legalizing marijuana. They never mentioned Q in that story. They never, whenever we did stories on them, they never mentioned Q, which is thing. I talked to him tonight when we watched this episode, and he's like, well, they kind of used my story out of context because they never mentioned Q. And when he went to interview him, they were not wearing Q shirts. Now, when you see them in this documentary, they are wearing Q shirts and they're talking openly about their love for Q. That is a completely different set. It is not from the story. So they did, pointing out my thing from last episode about how the documentary makers can guide you here. They clearly took something that was focused on marijuana and made it about Q. So they're trying to guide the narrative here.
So, do you think the legalize it movement is part of Q?
No, I think that they just have
good.
two different interests here at this point.
Conspiracy theories and pot.
Well,
oh, these people sound so fun.
As I said, as I told Sarah, every negative stereotype you can think of people involved with marijuana, yeah, these people live up to that. These are not the people you want fighting for legalization if you support it. These are the people you want to stay away from.
Also, Jeremy, remember, we're not supposed to use the word marijuana anymore. That is canceled. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I'm having too much fun with this.
Whether you call it marijuana or cannabis, either way, it's not the N-word.
Pot, weed. I know all the names for it. Kush. Anyway.
Chronic.
We could just sit here and go down the list, but we're not going to do that. I wonder if they should change themselves to the 420 friendly party. Can we have...
I feel like they're going to push to change the state area code to 420 instead of 401.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, I'm just kidding, guys. It's too much. It's too much to not make all these jokes about. Like, there's only so much crazy you can pack into something before it's like, ugh. But with this episode, Jeremy got super excited when he saw the pot people and his friend at the news station. And I actually also did put pictures of Jeremy's friends and tagged him in the post on I Watched It With My Wife. And if you want to watch his reaction from the first documentary, you can see that on I Watched It With My Wife on Facebook too. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I still think it's Jim and Ron. I still think they're Q. We go back and we talk to them more in this episode because every single episode, it just leads us right back to them. We do talk to Frederick more. We learn about how Frederick left 8chan and moved on with his life and his reasons why. And basically, he accuses Jim of being a over-controlling boss.
Yes.
So, I really think if Frederick were Q, and Frederick also talks more in depth about how he got the blue Q, how it was just like a thing, and does he outright say that he thinks it's them, or does he think that they're involved? He says he thinks that they're involved. Kind of. There's implication.
He implies that that Jim is, even though Jim has told us several times he's not political, Frederick flat out says Jim's a political person, and it's kind of hinting at it there. And there's a lot in this documentary that makes me think that Ron specifically is more involved, but it does seem like, as I said before, if Ron is Q, he's just like trolling everybody with it.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. Also, there's, I don't know. I still am on the kick that it's Jim and Ron for. There's the whole part about the guy who's narrating the documentary, who goes home and he has a conversation with Ron where they're walking through the woods and Ron is carrying this mallet. And basically Ron is talking about things that pop up in the next Q post. I don't know. There's just a lot. And then you have Jim counteracting some of his statements that he had said in the first or in the second episode. He's contradicting himself. So there's a lot of that.
They do talk about some of Q's predictions, like we predicted 53-47, and at the time was the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearings. And everybody thought that the outcome was going to be 53-47, and then he was saying that, and then it wound up being 50-48 with 2 senators not there to vote. But after the 2018 elections, the split went 53-47 in favor of the Republicans. So it does discuss that, and then at some point it talks about how the Q site got hacked, and then it implemented a code that is specific to 8chan, and then the type of messaging style changed, and the guy who developed the code was Ron Watkins. So it definitely is hinting that Ron is deeply involved in Q here. Whether he is Q or whether he's helping Q, I don't know.
I still think that Q is more than one person. And I think that it's people who are close that we don't know all the players yet. But I think the 2 main players are still Jim and Ron.
There are also hints that they're close with Roger Stone and Michael Flynn, two people who were close to President Trump, 2 people who were charged with lying to the FBI and were about to serve prison time, and 2 people who got out of prison time. Flynn, because his conviction was overturned, I believe his conviction was overturned, and then Stone, who was pardoned by President Trump before he left office. So there is some interesting stuff there, and then add in there General Michael Flynn, also from Middletown, Rhode Island.
More Rhode Island connections. Maybe everybody from Rhode Island is Q.
So you're Q?
Yes. No, I don't know. I don't know anymore. No, it's definitely Jim and Ron.
I don't know that it's definitely Jim and Ron,
still stuck on that.
But it's hinting more and more that at the very least Ron is involved.
So another huge thing that this documentary touches on, and it's kind of a very sensitive topic in a way, is how freedom of speech, and you see a little more of that in this episode than you do the others, how freedom of speech when you're not held accountable for what you say and you can just get away with saying whatever you want, there can be real ramifications. And they talk about the shooting at the mosque in New Zealand and how that was live streamed and how the manifesto was posted on 8chan. And
then it talked about an anti-Trump shooting at a synagogue in California, I believe it was.
Yes. And how and unfortunately there is a lot of hate speech on the internet. You don't even have to go into the dark web. You don't even have to go to 8chan to see it. You can go on Facebook and go on a mommy blog and see moms say terrible things to each other about.
You want to see awful things on the internet, literally just go to a comment thread on any major
political post, news station.
Oh dear Lord.
Yep, any news story. Yeah, you can just go on there and click and read the comments and see how terrible people really are. And it's really sad. And it makes you wonder, like, I do value the right to free speech. I don't censor a lot of things in my house. Jeremy and I do not listen to censored music usually.
Not by choice.
That being said, I don't play certain songs in front of my kids because I don't want to have the conversation with my child about what they're about. But I don't necessarily censor music for my child. And if he were playing it, I'd be like, hey, listen, do you know what you're listening to? And take the opportunity to have the conversation. We're not big on censorship. I am more of a free speech person. That being said, you cannot just go around and say whatever you want. There is a difference between the F-bomb and hate speech.
Yes.
Like there's a huge difference between saying fuck this and kill all blank insert culture, race, religion, whatever you want. There's a huge difference between the two things. And there's even a line between people who will say, I take the moral high ground and I don't say terrible things or I won't swear. And then they'll go and say, well, I hate all people of blank race, or post an incredibly racist or bigoted or anti-Semitic meme. And not even realize that they're complaining about somebody saying the F word, but really what they're doing is feeding into hate.
Yeah, there are plenty of people who are like that who,
I see this every day on social media.
yeah, who are they're focused on words and not meanings behind words.
Exactly. I've even seen people like take words, slang words that people use, and turn them into negative words to bash people who think differently than them. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, what is wrong with you? Um, we live in a sad, sick world. Social media, the internet, social media has definitely twisted. It is twisted. It is. It's changed. It's honestly like some days I think about how if I didn't have podcasts, I wouldn't want to be on social media at all. I've had a lot more of those days recently where it's like, if I don't have podcasts to promote, I don't want to be on social media. I don't want to share my thoughts, my opinions, my ideas with anybody because I know I'm going to piss off at least half of the people
Oh, there are
that I
plenty
know.
of days I just take a break from social media just because I need it.
Yeah. And, this documentary kind of gets into where is free speech too free? Where's the line? Is it when it turns into an action, or is it when it's a word? Where's the line? There's been issues this year with censorship as far as Facebook goes, as far as misinformation and disinformation. There's been issues this year with censorship on political things. There's been censorship on vaccines in certain social media accounts because, well, frankly, there has to be, because misinformation and disinformation is very dangerous. And actually, I was recently watching a lecture on this on Great Courses Plus, and it talks about that. And there's also generational gaps and who believes the mis and disinformation more than who doesn't. And
I,
we've all fallen victim to it.
I got banned from Facebook Live for calling a friend of mine a lizard person, and we were clearly joking around with each other, but it goes against Facebook's community standards.
Um,
I got put in Facebook jail.
and I've seen people share memes that were like straight up inaccurate and stupid and political and basically offensive and terrible, and get put in Facebook jail and not understand why, because they really believe whatever this meme says. So this documentary gets you back to that. What is reality? Do we even know anymore? Is it Instagram? Is it social media? Is it the internet? Do we even know what's real anymore? Like it really gets you back to that. And where are we censored?
I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I take the blue pill?
I don't know what the blue pill does.
In one of the posters on 8chan, who's a big Q follower, is called Red Pill, and it's a reference to the Matrix movies. And in the first Matrix, Lawrence Fishburne's character Morpheus offers one of two pills to Neo, played by Keanu Reeves: the red pill or the blue pill. The blue pill takes you back to where you are currently living in your guarded, sheltered life, to where you don't know anything. The red pill takes you to what is actual reality, takes you behind the curtain, so to see, and you find out that things are not what you thought they were. A lot of times when you see behind the scenes, you don't like what you see. That's kind of the whole thing of the red pill, and that's what they're focusing on, saying that Q is taking them behind the scenes. I doubt that's true. I kind of think Q is giving them a blue pill that they think is a red pill.
Well, yeah, because you can say that for any side, because with the internet and with so many different opinions, even like, let's just get Q out of this. Let's go back, and the vaccine debate is such an easy one to do this with. And it's like the one that I see the most. It drives me nuts. But, anti-vaxxers firmly believe that not vaccinating their children against the measles and whatever else is what's really best for them. And that any mother who does do this is killing her child. And they really believe, and that's their reality. It is. That's their, it's not actual reality, but it's their reality. So to them, I'm living in a dream world.
But science debunks what they're saying.
But the fake science that they're seeing,
But what they're seeing is not science, though. It's lies.
but what they're seeing has enough scientific words for them to put together and think, oh my God, how can I do this?
Well, yeah,
I saw a meme that said the COVID vaccine has ferrous sulfate in it. Why would you put that in your body?
I could give you the chemical composition of blood, and if you saw those terms, like, why would you put that in the body? These people would say,
ferrous sulfate would be in it.
Yeah, these people would say, I would never do that. And I'm like, well, without it, you wouldn't live.
Yeah, literally, ferrous sulfate, for those of you who don't know, and you should know, is iron. You cannot live without iron in your body. So all these like heavy metal detox, you can't have any heavy metals in your body. You gotta have a little bit because you gotta have iron in your body. You gotta have magnesium in your body. These are.
Oh, I remember.
But I'm not like a scientist or a doctor by any means. Please don't like take this as medical advice. But
I remember one of them complaining about having E. coli in a vaccine, and like, but E. coli makes you sick. Why would you do that? And I was like, well, there are literally hundreds of types of E. coli, some that live in your stomach that don't make you sick, by the way.
Yeah. We need good and bad bacteria. I know.
But we're digressing.
But we are, and but it's true though. Like these Q people, like this is their reality is this craziness, and you know, I don't know if Q, or the people who are Q are saying this stuff because they really believe it themselves, or if they're really just doing it just kind of to see what happens. Maybe there is some bet, especially if there's especially if they're in foreign business and stuff like that. Maybe there is something to gain off this, because all this is creating a lot of unrest right now in our culture, in our society, in the American way. I mean, we literally had major disruption in an election because, and most of that was Q followers. It wasn't just like normal Trump supporters. Most of those people were Q followers. And, you know, there's serious repercussions to that are going to happen. And, you know, it's just to this person, maybe the collapse of, you know, certain American markets, there's gain for them. Hey, I can come bring my businesses back home now. You know?
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to get assassinated tomorrow after this.
Maybe. But anyway, so that's episode 3 of Q Into the Storm. We got 3 more episodes. This is just crazy, but it's been a wild ride with some funny moments and some give me an aneurysm moments. But yeah, so we'll have another episode here soon on I Watched It With My Wife.
But please check out Jeremy's reactions, and I know I watched it with my wife on Facebook.
Okay.
We gotta have that. And we need you guys to reach out to us at withmywifepod.com and let us know your thoughts on this documentary if you've watched it.
Yep. And so that'll do it for I Watched It With My Wife.
See you next time.
Bye.